Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP. We know scripted TV. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here today to talk about Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings of Power. That is what we are here for. Season 2. The first 3 episodes have dropped, and we know scripted TV. We also know Lord of the Rings, some more than others. Speaking of, I'm with my co-host Grace. How you doing, Grace?
I'm good. We did get a lot of Rings of Power. That was a lot. It was hour plus long episodes. A lot happening. There's a lot. We gotta get through a lot.
I mean, yeah, over an hour for each episode. I mean, we're approaching 4 hours of Rings of Power already. That's like the length of season 1
it's
of
a
Ted
lot.
Lasso.
But I think we're actually almost halfway through the season. I think it's 8 episodes. So you win some, you lose some.
Yes. So what we are going to do here is that we are going to be talking through episodes 1 through 3. They all dropped at the same time. And there's always like a back and forth about how do you cover shows that drop all at once. I think I tend to be in favor of cover them as they drop because it can be kind of difficult to be like, okay, I'm going to watch one, then I can't, then I have to stop and not watch any, listen to the podcast. I know some do that and enjoy it, but I think we're going to go 3 episodes, and then as they drop weekly, we will cover the episodes weekly as well. So that is the plan.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is the way to go. We're gonna assume you've watched all 3 episodes. We've watched all 3 episodes, and now we're gonna talk about it.
Yes. So this is the setup here. I have read Lord of the Rings. I have watched the movies. I've not read The Hobbit. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
but I have.
I mean, it's a children's. I read The Hobbit, and it's like I was an adult. I was like, oh, this is for children. Yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fun.
I did watch those movies as well. And I have obviously watched season 1 of Rings of Power. But I approach this very much in the like, I vaguely understand some of this, maybe most of it, but I'm definitely not sure about it. Whereas Grace, you have a bit more knowledge.
I feel like I've done a lot of the same. I've read and watched a lot of the same things as you, but it has been my goal over the last little while to make sure that as we podcast about it, I feel comfortable being like, I should know what this is, and if I don't, I'd be able to very quickly Google it. That's my goal. So I will say it's been very fun. I do feel like I've had whiplash from also watching Industry. I literally was talking with Josh regularly today, and we were talking about like foreign exchange and cables and all this, and I had to be like, doing that, and then I was watching Lord of the Rings and being like, what's an Anatar? So but yes, I have been doing my research to make sure that we are equipped to be able to know what we're talking about, Taran.
Yes, we did do a little bit of a recap of season 1, which I it was nice. It was a nice refresher for me, even heading into season 2, and I felt like we hit the ground running, and I felt like I was there. I was pretty much caught up. I felt like I wasn't too confused about things. I will admit I was a little lost on where we are with the dwarves. I was a little lost on where we were with Númenor, but I was like, I vaguely remember an argument happening there, and I vaguely remember that there's a power struggle here. But beyond that, I thought it was a good pickup, and I don't even like a lot of what I remember at the end of season 1 felt like it transitioned into season 2 very well. So I was very happy. Honestly, in general, I was very happy with these 3 episodes, and I'm excited for more.
Yeah, I thought that the episodes. I did question dropping this much Rings of Power, but I do think when you see all 3 episodes and see how much we get and how they do cover quite a bit of ground, but not necessarily like we don't see certain characters until episode 3. That makes a lot of sense in terms of like, I think we basically jumped back into every story we were tracking in season 1. We've at least picked it up by the end of episode 3. So it feels like a lot, but I also understand where they've sort of like marked off a chunk of story to throw at us for the beginning of season 2.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, I feel like we talked recently about like the look of the show and how it doesn't always have like the grit to it that an HBO production might, and that can sometimes be an issue. But man, I don't know if it got better or if I just was remembering it wrong because it's a pretty show. It's very pretty to look at. I really like it.
I thought I have to be honest that when you were like, I don't feel like it's like season one, whatever. And I remember having this conversation with Josh Wigler where he was like, yeah, it does feel like they spent $1 billion on this on this show. And so my memory was like, and I've been rewatching. I was like, I feel like it looks really good. The one thing I always think about is like the elven armor that they're wearing that is like looks like the like face in the tree. I'm like, that looks so good. I do feel like the graphics are very good in this show. I think it does look like they spent a lot of money on it, and I did rewatch season one. I thought it looked good. I think this looks pretty good too. So
I think probably if I were to have an issue with it, it's that like the some of the costuming is very good. I think some of it feels a little weird. Some of the haircuts,
mm,
it's probably lore accurate or something, but like I don't know.
yeah.
The
Whose hair? Whose
hairdos,
hair? Whose hair? Whose hair?
honestly, a lot of them have way too perfect hair.
Yeah. Okay. There is some stuff every once in a while, like I feel like an action scene. There's a scene where like someone gets like shoved into, and I was like, oh, that looks not great. But like if you just wide shots of cities, looks amazing. Looks
It
great.
does. It does.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in here. We're gonna sort of go over, I think, the highlights of episodes 1 through 3. I didn't notice a significant difference in quality in the episodes. I probably prefer the second episode the most, the third episode the least, but that's a very vague sort of thing. I watched them in pretty quick succession, so it was more like one very long extended cut movie.
I would agree. I think though that's right. I think that the episode three stuff has the stuff that I'm just like the least interested. Doesn't mean I'm not interested in it. It's just the stuff that I'm kind of least interested in. I think. But I think season episode two. I would agree with your ranking. I think two is the best. One is second. Three is the weakest. But I thought they all have moments to shine in each episode. So we'll chat through it.
Yeah, so far for me, the Sauron stuff.
Mhm.
It's weird. It's weird. Feels weird to call him that actually.
I know. In
Uh,
my notes, I had to switch from. I was calling it Halbrand. I was like, everybody knows that guy's not Halbrand.
yeah.
So, um,
That feels like some of the strongest stuff to me. I
I
feel
agree.
like the elves are pretty strong. Um, then we start to drift a little. The probably Gandalf stuff. Eh.
Mhm.
The Númenor stuff I felt was the weakest, which is why I think I was not super pleased with episode 3 as much. But I did like the Isildur stuff and the whole that plot line in episode 3 with the talking about the mom stuff. We'll talk about it. I liked that stuff. And then the dwarves I'm a little cold on right now as well. But like nothing bad. I mean,
Yeah.
this is classic epic fantasy for me. It's like, this reminds me a lot of reading through like A Song of Ice and Fire or
Yeah.
something. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, it's this
Yeah.
chapter,
I gotta
but
get
that's
through
fine.
this. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. What I find really interesting about this show is that I do think that probably like some of the like critiques of season one is that they're like they're not being totally faithful to Tolkien, and basically this is a thing that they're adapting essentially from appendices, and so they have to cram stuff together to make it all sort of fit together in one story. Like but it's so funny that they're doing and I think my mileage varies heavily depending on whether or not they're withholding information from me or not. So, like the fact that they still aren't saying whether this is Gandalf or not, and we all presume it's Gandalf, but why aren't they saying it's Gandalf? And so, like, I really like the Hobbits and the Halfling, and the thing I actually think is the strongest from this show is the writing. I think the dialogue is fantasy and epic in a way like everybody speaks in a way that I'm not feeling that it's like it very easily could be cheesy and corny, but some of these conversations I think are pretty well written in terms of how they should feel. But yeah, I do think there's a big difference when it's like okay, I kind of can track where we're going, and that's why the dwarf stuff is mostly working for me, and then the stranger stuff less so. But yeah, the fact that in the dialogue or the closed captions, like the stranger, it's like okay, all right, okay, all right, he's a
Mhm.
stranger, he's not Gandalf. No,
I will say I do agree. I think in general the dialogue is good. It's very poetic in a very Tolkien-esque way. But I do occasionally find some moments where it's like I know exact like there's like a line, pause. I know exactly what's going to be said because I've heard this line a million times before. And there was one in episode 3, which I just watched, which was like the horse has an action scene.
yeah,
And
Eric, yeah,
the horse runs away into the forest and they're like, oh, we got to chase it. Like, no, don't bother. Nobody comes back from that. And I was like, why? Why do we need this? Why do we need this? Come on. You can do better than that.
okay. Here's though where the problem of me being like I'm gonna do all the research is like when we get a full opening segment about a horse. Like, is this an important? Is this Gandalf's horse that lived for thousands of years? Like, is this, which I think is Shadowfat? Shadowfat. I'm gonna get that wrong.
That
Someone will
sounds
tell me.
familiar.
But it's like, is that this horse? Like, did I not know horses live forever? And I'm like googling. It's like, no, it's just a horse that like Isildur like loves, so it's fine. But I don't know. There's other stuff I think I'm less high on than you are. At least the prolonged horse openings. He did kick a goblin into a tree branch. That happened. That
That
was
it was
pretty badass.
genuinely it was an action scene straight out of an action movie, except there
Yeah.
was a horse instead of a person.
Yeah, I mean, I opening segments can sequence. Can we talk? I feel like I totally agree. You said that the Sauron stuff is really working for you. It's really working for me. I was I mean, I guess they had to. I was at Fan Expo a little while ago, and I saw the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, like promo material everywhere, and it's like Sauron but an elf. And I thought that was interesting because like episode 2 basically ends on this big like I shall show you myself, Celebrimbor. This is who I actually am. I'm going to trick you into making the rings. Um, Again, for a thing that we know exactly what's going to happen, I thought that this stuff is exceptional. But we did get the pretty awesome, I thought, like how does Halbrand show up backstory stuff that I thought they obviously couldn't do in season 1 because they wanted to keep who Halbrand was a mystery. Did this work for you? Like the opening, probably 20 minutes of episode 1, just being like, how'd Halbrand get back to Middle Earth? How'd Sauron arrive?
It did. It largely did. My least favorite part of it was the very beginning where it was like he's giving a speech to a room of like 50 people, and he sounds like a corporate CEO.
He wasn't in his
And
final form yet, Taran. He's bad.
I was thinking about it because it just like I get it. This is sort of it's like a representation of the reality, which is that Sauron tries to take control and that there's the coup, right? You have to
Yeah.
show that in like a couple of minutes. But it just really felt like that to me. Like we like it didn't feel it could have been better in my eyes. But the second he starts getting stabbed, it gets great. And
Really good.
his black goo seeps down and he's in the cave for like a really long time until there's like some critters that come by and he eats them. Like
It's
that
a
was
rat.
great. Love that.
Mhm. Yeah, the like goo forming body that's like crawling around the like ice capped mountains. That was great. Looked
And
so cool.
what I really loved about it, because like again, I don't know how lore accurate this is, but like, um, you know, I I really like learning more about things, and I know that's not exactly like the most Tolkien-y kind of thing. Like there are, there are just like beings, and there's good and there's bad, and there's, he is certainly more complicated than that. I'm not trying
Mhm.
to make it seem like he is, but like I think correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Tolkien is kind of like a more of a soft magic guy than a hard magic guy.
The Sauron stuff is pretty like when you start to dig. This is what I was when I'm starting to dig into like what actually is Sauron. Like what is he in terms of he is essentially like he is there's like Maiar, which are essentially like these like forces of being, I guess, kind of that are like sent down, and some of them get corrupted. This like Sauron gets corrupted by Morgoth, the like first big bad you often hear about, like the evil they had to defeat. There's a name drop to Morgoth in episode 3 about the land that the Alphas. See, this is so bad. He shows up late in episode 3, and I'm like, and we hung out with him all in season 1. Arondir, the elf. His homeland gets like done, but Sauron essentially being this like, it's essentially like they're like my essentially essences of just spiritual world. This is why he can like shapeshift and do
Right.
all these things. But he basically, with his goal, is to corrupt and conquer the world. Needs human form to be able to do that. And so this is how like he ends up being you know uh, embodied, and he's the first version of Sauron that gets killed by Adar. Adar is not a book character at all, is entirely a show invention. I love that stuff. I love the Adar being like, I'm gonna basically like, I killed Sauron. Why should I believe he could ever come back? That makes no sense to me. And that Sauron is basically like letting Adar do all this stuff so that he eventually can just come and be like, actually, I think I'll just take over the orc army now. I'll just rule them. Thanks for creating Mordor. This is my place now. That like power dynamic is pretty fun, I think, actually. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess what I was saying was that like what I liked about this, whether Black Goo is lore accurate or not,
Yeah,
is that it
sure.
makes me feel like I understand
Right.
because I read the books, I watched the movies, and let me tell you, I was a kid when I did both, so don't judge me too harshly. But like, I never had any idea what or who Sauron was.
Right.
I just
Right.
he was
He's just
like
a big
at
bad.
best
Yeah.
a floating eye.
Yeah. Mhm.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And so like the idea that like, oh, he's just this dude, except he can get kind of gooey sometimes, made a lot of sense to me. Oh, he's probably like a little bit gooey during the events of Lord of the Rings. I don't know. That's probably what was happening. Maybe it's not true, but now I feel like it could be, and that makes me feel happy.
Mm, I mean, it's not really, but we'll get to that, I think, over the course of watching Rings of Power. But it's
maybe it's
fine.
not
It's
exactly
fine.
gooey, but like it makes more
He
sense to me
he
now
is
how
not a
he could be
human. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
but not there,
Yeah, he's
if
not a
that makes
human.
sense.
This is the whole thing of like Sauron has returned. Is that he's not like a human who dies and then was reincarnated. He is like much more of like an essence than. And I'm explaining. It was super hardcore Tolkien fans are like yelling at me, but like he's more of an essence than anything else. And so the fact that he had to like rebuild, and then but he's choosing to pretend to be first a human and Halbrand, and then pretending to reveal himself as the Lord of Gifts. And he's essentially like from the Valar, which is like the Elven Farfland. He's pretending to be a
Yes.
spiritual being to Celebrimbor, to be like Gilgalad doesn't really maybe think we should make more rings, but I'm telling you, as a spiritual, basically angel, the Lord of Gifts to elves, we got to make these rings, Celebrimbor. And Celebrimbor's
Okay.
like, hell yeah, we should do
So
that.
this is part of my question.
Yeah.
Is Sauron the same kind of like angel creature as Gandalf? Is Gandalf not also an angel creature?
Uh, he is technically Gandalf is an Istar, which is like they are specifically, and there's only like a few of those, and they are not necessarily, from my understanding, they're not as much like so what Sarnas is not a god, but he's like the level down from the god. Like this is like my understanding.
Mhm.
Like a level is like the god of Lord of the Rings world, the best when Anatar's like, "Hey," Sauron's like, "Hey, you could be the Lord of the Rings," pointing at the screen. But Gandalf is also sent, but he's different than Sauron for
He's
sure.
like a
And
level
he
down
is
in
more human.
management.
He's more human because he's a wizard. And the thing is, again, we don't know that this is Gandalf. There's 3
I'm not
episodes of
saying
season
that's
2.
I'm just saying Gandalf in general.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay,
Istar a
so
little different, but
but
yeah.
but they're kind
Mhm.
of but they're similar.
Oh no, yeah, actually they are. Maybe they are actually Maiar spirits. Yeah, sent to Middle Earth. Yeah, to aid denizens. Yeah, to fight Sauron specifically. Actually, so yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um so I loved this. I loved getting more context for Sauron. And sort of like giving us the plot up until he meets Galadriel. And then like jumping straight in and getting to see Halbrand slash I forgot the other name already, Sauron, manipulating
Yeah.
people, very fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I mean, the show is called Rings of Power. We're gonna make the rings. The elf stuff too. I thought was very strong because it's in relation. Is obviously like these rings were made, and what I really love about this, Darren, is that essentially both Galadriel and Elrond right now are completely right. So the rings are not currently corrupted, but Elrond is like, but they could be, and like we actually don't know if they are, and that's true. We'll learn. Like that's true too. That's true. That they could
I
be.
am Team Elrond on this.
I know, but for now they seem pretty great and rad, and they might
No,
save. They might save Middle Earth. They might save the elf. The tree came back to life, Taryn. The tree came back to
no,
life
nope. Team Elrond. Throw those in the water.
in the water. You got to throw them in the. You got to throw.
He was gonna throw him in the water. It would have been fine.
He
He
would.
said.
We met the oldest elf ever. Played. I believe his name is Ben Daniels. You watch Foundation? Did you watch Foundation? Ben
Yes.
Daniels plays Sauron. He's excellent. He's great. He's tremendous.
Oh,
Very
that's
much
where I
enjoyed.
know him from.
Yeah, yeah. Very fun seeing the new people they've slotted into the season. Very very fun with Kieran Hines and Ben Daniels. Yeah, that's the oldest elf basically.
I liked him better with the beard. I'm not gonna lie.
He did. Yeah, he looks good with the beard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Serdon is his name. Yeah, so yeah, team up, yeah, but currently they're not corrupted. Currently those rings are fine to use. The problem will be if and when Sauron can create the one ring to rule them all, Taryn. So he's got to create all
Right.
the other rings, and then he'll create the one ring to rule them all. So
I mean,
currently, fine
listen,
to use.
I am not team they're both right. I am Team Elrond. He's right. Even if they're not corrupted now, they're all clearly part of the plan. He didn't help make them for nothing, you know?
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. All the rings are bad. Watching Durin at the end of the third episode be like, all right, we'll make the ring. The fight, Taryn, the thing that's happening with the dwarves. Let me because it's basically I think very well done. There's a lot of these stories that are actually pretty well connected. Basically, Elrond knows that the dwarves probably have metal that could help them in forging these rings. Goes there, finds out that they have found mithril, the greatest mineral ever. The problem is that mining mithril, as you can see from what's happening in season 2, sorry, is that it's risky and dangerous, and the whole world is sort of like falling apart, right? Like the tree has diminished, like Khazad-dûm is like crumbling. Their sun roofs are collapsing and breaking.
Was
So
was that on
mining minerals.
purpose though, or was that because of the mithril mining?
Um, I believe it's
It
like
was
so.
very
There's a
convenient if it wasn't on purpose from Sauron.
I think they do say that it's in the show, which doesn't mean that it's true, but that like the volcano exploding probably makes it. But it is mithril mining. Like the mithril mining is the reason. Like spoiler, Khazad-dûm is not around in that they have to go through the mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings. So it's like how dangerous is this? And we know there's a big thing in the bottom of. Do we see it in season 1? I can't remember whether we like get a
The
glimpse of like
Balrog?
yeah, the Balrog. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Balrog in there. So mining more mithril and getting to these this is a dangerous thing to do.
Wait, that's the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. That just clicked for me.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is kind of the fun I think of the show is being like, that's that thing from that happens later. That's so cool, right? Like
I thought that was just a Balrog.
no, I think it's the Balrog. Yeah, and again, people will correct me if I'm wrong. Like actually, it's not it's the Balrog's brother. Like, Balrog is also, I believe, a Mire who is sent on behalf of the god who rules all of Middle Earth.
Who keeps sending all these people?
He's got a.
Why are there why are you sending good people and bad people?
I don't know.
Isn't it what is Morgoth? Is Morgoth not the anti-god?
Morgoth was corrupted. He came as if he's a Mire, he got sent, but he got corrupted by evil. The problem is
What
that these
made him
people who
better?
come he got defeated. Morgoth got defeated.
Well, what makes him better than Sauron?
He got Sauron to work for. He like trained Sauron. Like Sauron is like there's a whole thing. Adar is the story in the show is that Adar is like the first elf that was like corrupted to then eventually like create orcs, goblins,
Mhm.
basically. And so
Their
Adar
father.
and Sauron both kind of like were like in Morgoth's, but they were like working for Morgoth. And then Morgoth got defeated, so Sauron was like, I'm gonna go do some,
There's
I'll do
nothing
my own evil.
actually better about Morgoth. He just was like better at getting people to work for him.
He was he was like the first he was like the first big evil of middle, like was able to like, yeah, get, corrupt, and he basically created orcs. Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing that where I went back to is why what's happening with the dwarves is that the Durin, the son, Prince Durin, and his father, King Durin, are fighting
Mhm.
because Durin gave Elrond the myth. I believe actually Elrond stole the mithril and gave it to Celebrimbor and Gil-galad to
I
basically
was not
create the
Team
rings.
Elrond when that happened, by the way.
Yeah, that feels bad. That's the dwarf's property. Yeah. And so he did that, and like Durin is mad at his son because King Durin is mad because he's like, you let Elrond in, you like the friend, this is your friend, and he stole a very precious mithril. But now knowing that like things do seem to be pretty bad, not only in Khazad-dûm, but like everywhere, Durin goes and apologizes to his father and gives a piece of mithril to help make the rings specifically for the dwarves, which is
Okay, so the
bad
argument
news.
was Durin wanted to give Mithril. Who was anti-Mithril mining?
Um, I think like I don't know. I'm trying to collect my memory whether like people were anti-mithril. It's more so
I
like
thought the
should
argument
we
was
be giving
about
away the mithril? And
the
also
Mithril
mining
mining.
the mithril is dangerous. It's like you can see that it's becoming dangerous to do this.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I thought the argument was about, but I couldn't remember which side each person was on.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like uh Prince Durin wanting to like help his buddy friend who they'd been fighting and they've made up, and now be like, we need mithril to make these rings. And Durin's like, I don't think my dad's gonna let you take the mithril. And then
Okay,
Elrond just takes the mithril anyway. Yeah,
so
bad.
everyone just keeps swapping. They were pro Mithril but anti Ring, and then they were anti
From
Mithril but pro Ring.
well, anti-sharing, this is our stuff.
Mm.
We'll use it to build. What we there's only so much mithril. Do you see how much they had to? It's a tiny little amount that uh Anatar put in the Sauron threw in the thing at the end of the episode.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, so the dwarves are being manipulated. Um, I will say the Sauron plot. He goes to the Elven Forge and he manipulates Celebrimbor. He becomes Anatar. Uh, now, as him pretending to be Anatar. This is him
yeah.
pretending to be a different Maiar.
This is so he's pretending to be from the Valar, who govern the world under the direction of basically the gods. Yeah. Um, yeah. So he's
So
going to he's
he's
like
just like I am a holy person, but definitely
basically
not Sauron.
not Sauron. I'm doing this for good. Sauron is usually Sauron's back for sure. That's what Galadriel knows. Killing
But
all the
Celebrimbor
messengers to
doesn't
make sure
even know
nothing goes wrong.
Sauron's back.
He doesn't. I think I think he tell. I don't know whether Sauron tells him Sauron specifically is back, or whether there's like a darkness away. Like
Well, there was a
Celebrimbor
big
knows, like
volcano explosion recently. That was pretty bad.
he knows bad stuff's happening, and he's basically like the only way to fight these people is to make these rings that will give us enough power to like, and the power is all like it's essentially like there's a whole like theory of like Tolkien's like the way the world was created, and essentially there's a thing about like light and the fracturing of light and the light actually being smaller and in different pieces. That's where like Galadriel's like stuff in the
Mm.
her like lights thing in the movie, that's like a piece of like to like the bigger light that like created. So like, yeah, it's all about darkness and light, Taran. But yeah, he's like, we got to make the rings to be able to fight any evil that's coming. But secretly, Celebrimbor, I'm gonna actually control all the rings with the one ring to rule them all.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, the plot is to convince the guy that he's actually a good guy and he's helping. And he gets away with it because whoops, there's no letters coming. I found this to be a little silly. Like, in a world of
yeah,
such magic and stuff like, oh man, they, they intercepted our ravens. You know, like they took down our messengers. We can't get word to him that Sauron's alive. And also, like, Galadriel didn't feel it necessary to name drop Sauron when she was like, "Hey, don't like this guy sucks. Like, definitely don't work with him. But I'm not going to tell you why, because I need you to still be tricked by him in the future."
Yeah. So one of the things I like, because Halbrand is not, and again, people correct me if I'm wrong, he's not mentioned in the appendices, but Anatar is. And then there's all this stuff about how like Galadriel and Gil-galad, they actually don't really trust Anatar. But there's no way now. It can be like, hey, that guy looks a lot like Halbrand, and the Halbrand's Sauron. So yeah, this stuff, like maybe I think part of it is like, and it's a little bit of the thing I have a problem with this. Okay, I on one hand, I'm kind of like, I wish they maybe were a little bit more like, this is this person. On the other hand, I do think from a like engagement of the show piece, like how many people, like if you go and look on YouTube of like, is the stranger Gandalf? Just type is the stranger Gandalf. You are gonna get so many YouTube videos about the Rings of
Oh,
Power.
it's
And
just
so like
engagement farming.
it's engagement farming, right? So a lot of this stuff like in here is, which like I feel like, yeah, some of this stuff in the way that like what they wanted in season one was like, who's Halbrand? And so they came up with this thing to reveal that it's like, or not reveal, they came up with a way to like have Sauron be hidden in the first season, but then it was the one they chose to reveal. And so now we're playing in like, well, now he's going to be the named character that we have from the appendices. And so, yeah, that creates now they've like, they're in a little bit of a corner in terms of like, well, how's this going to work with Galadriel? The one piece of it that I do like, Taran, I do like Celebrimbor basically like being like, dude, I actually did the thing I've been like, no one else has been ever been able to like him the playing into his pride about creating the great like the achievement that he will be known for forever. Unfortunately, it will end up being bad. But playing into that is the piece of this dynamic that I really do like of like, and it's our Sauron playing into Celebrimbor's pride about how he feels about his work and creating achievement and having legacy that I think that to me is working pretty excellently.
I
Celebrimbor as a
agree.
character mostly works for me, but yeah, there are these little like contrivances of being like, and I will write a letter back to them saying, "Don't worry about it, I'll come home soon." Like, sends the
Yes.
letter back.
I also think it has the issue that a lot of really writing in general does, which is like, and we've talked about this before, but like really smart characters, how to write really
Right,
smart characters,
right,
how do you write really good manipulation? Like
right,
Halbrand, the guy, was a master manipulator because they wrote him to be Halbrand, the guy, and not Sauron. Now that
right,
he's Sauron, like every line is like delivered with a wink. It's
right.
like,
Literally the
oh
slide grid
man,
that's on
well,
the marketing material.
but
Yeah,
the High King, you know,
yeah.
oh no, I couldn't possibly. Like it's so over the top, and like I want a little more subtlety there. Like I don't need to be. You don't need to tell me he's manipulating. I get it. Just like
There, there's a complete reversal from episode 2, I think, to episode 3 when he reveals himself. He's like, we have to do this. And then in episode 3 when he's like, you'll lie to the king, he's like, yeah, dude, you're like an elven god, man. Like, yeah, of course I would lie to the king. You are more powerful than that man, so I will lie to him so that we can do the thing that you told me we had to do. But it's written in a way to be like, he's trying to manipulate. You're right, he's trying to manipulate it, but it's like, of course he would. Like, that's not the way I feel like. And if you were even Anatar, you should be reacting to like, you're gonna lie to the
yeah.
king? Yeah,
It's
but
a nitpick. I still think it's fun. I still think it's my favorite parts of these episodes, but I, you know, I wish it were a little more subtle.
well, so
Um,
the things that I'm most looking forward to this in terms of stuff we know is on the table, which is um 9 rings for men who will become the Nazgul or the ring race. And so
Doomed to die.
very excited about that, seeing how that happens, whether or not that's a season or not. Like, I don't even think it's potentially this season. We're so, like, as I said, we're almost at halfway through this season. And then him creating the One Ring. I'm very excited about seeing how that happens once he's created all the other rings. So
That
that's
feels
something.
like Endgame to me.
It
That feels
certainly
like
feels
end
like,
of show.
well, they, there is, so the thing you were talking about earlier about like who Sauron is later, I think the combination of basically, I think the end of the second age is essentially, which like I feel weird because like you could like we're talking about a prequel to a sequel, just but I will not say what happens at the end of the second age. But that to me does feel like, I don't know if we can like time
Yeah,
wise
we don't need to
get
go
there.
into
So
too deep of a speculation for like details of what will happen. I think in general we're fine with like if it happened in Lord of the Rings, we're fine to like talk about it. But like, there's a lot that I certainly don't know about how this will all play out, and
right, right,
I know that there are certain characters that definitely survive to the Lord of the Rings, but
sure,
beyond that, I don't really know.
sure,
So,
sure.
so yeah, I think I'm happy to continue to be spoiler free in that sense.
I will do my best. I will do my best. Yeah, to not
Mhm.
spoil anybody. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of like is this person Gandalf videos, are there videos about like this kid still is hiding his ears?
Okay,
Because
they
like,
actually did reveal his ears last season. Taryn. There is
oh,
and
did they?
it could have been a mistake. There is literally every Reddit thread you go to that's like, who's Theo's dad? There's like people being like, well, his dad is an elf. He's probably a half elf. And then there's a one still image that everyone has shared of he's beside Galadriel and you see his ears. And it absolutely could have been a mistake. The other thing is to say that his ears are
I'm
not,
assuming who's had regular ears
he
in
had
the
regular
photo.
ears. And the thing is that his ears maybe aren't pointy enough to be an elf, but that doesn't mean he's not a half elf.
Right.
So yeah, and again, it could have been a mistake. Like it could have been just literally like a. Actually, I'd love to go back and see if they like changed it, and that clip doesn't actually like isn't in the show anymore. I'd love to see if that's true or not. But we technically have seen his ears again. Could have been a mistake. I think, but literally, I think the more important thing, Taryn, is that like they're like literally in episode 3, he's like, "Did you know my dad?"
You're not
Other
my dad.
He's like, no. He's like, yeah. So we are still gonna play up who is Theo's dad. And Bronwyn, dead, just gone. We knew that. We knew she was
Okay,
gonna
that
end the
was
show, but
another
like
question.
full dead. Mm.
I don't remember her dying.
She didn't die. She didn't die.
Okay.
She ends the season being like, we're gonna take all these people. We're gonna go. We're gonna take them. We're gonna leave. Obviously, as a volcano. And then the theory, I don't. I didn't actually look this up, like why the actress didn't return. But the thing he says, she got like, remember when she got stabbed with an orc arrow, and so he says that basically like that
They
corrupt like
thought she was better, and then
it corrupt.
I
Yeah,
feel like they could have set
secretly
that up
corrupted
better
her.
in the previously on. Maybe I just didn't notice it, but like,
They absolutely could have, but yeah, they did not. Yeah.
'cause I was very confused. I had remembered hearing that the actress had left the show, and, so it immediately felt like, so they wrote her character out, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, did she just die in the last season? I don't even remember now." But then I was like, no, I guess this is shoehorned in because he said that they thought she was better and then she just died." I feel like there's a better way to do this, especially considering how big a character she was in the previous season.
I agree. It feels not great. I did like the line. There is a foulness to orc arrows not easily forgotten by human flesh. That was the line that basically is like, yeah, she died from the orc poison, basically. So,
Speaking of actor changes,
mhm.
Adar,
Yes.
I was like, why does he look so much less cool? I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, maybe it's just because he's in the past, because it was in the past. Maybe he gets cooler in the future." And then I was watching and I was like, "No, he just something's weird." And then I saw he also he changed actors. It's a different guy.
Yeah, he got recast. Yeah, he did look a little more like, I thought, even goblin-y. Like he looked perfectly like a corrupt elf who becomes a goblin. But yeah, this
I
one
feel
is
like
fine.
the look is not as good this time around. No offense to the actor. I think it's if anything, he's too handsome or something. But yeah, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah. I like the outer. I like that. I like this stuff. The maybe some of the. What do you think of the troll scene? We get Damrod by the end of he's looking for Sauron. I think that's the last we see. That's
Is
the
that the
last of
troll?
like, that's the troll. Yeah, Damrod. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where that's going.
Well, I don't know either. Trolls. Yeah.
I thought they worked together all the time. I didn't know they were like not together.
yeah. I mean, I think the trolls are pretty separate from the guy in
I mean,
the.
I got that sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the Adder stuff I like. I like him being like, yeah, I'm not worried about. I freaking killed Sauron. Don't worry, he's not coming back. And then
I think Adar is one of the coolest parts of the show. I really
I
like the
agree.
idea of like orc rights, you know, and also I took down Sauron. You know what I mean?
He killed
Um,
Sauron. Yeah, it's rad.
again, could have been a maybe cooler scene that he took down Sauron. Maybe it wasn't like a
I,
scene of 50 people, but like it works. Again representative and it works.
I liked killing him with the spiky crown in the back, like in the back of the neck, basically. Of like you bend
Yeah, I
your
mean
head down, I'm gonna crown you, I'm gonna stab you in the back, but I'm standing in front of you. I thought it was cool.
seemed a little silly of Sauron to
Yeah,
expose himself like that, but
yeah, but yeah. He's being crowned. He wanted to be crowned in front of all the goblins.
yeah, it's a pretty pointy crown.
It's very, but that's evil stuff. All the evil stuff is pointy. Yeah.
It's like, all right,
Um,
crown me with the pointy crown. I'm not gonna do it myself. I'm trusting you. Why does he trust him? I don't know.
they've been working together for a long time since Morgoth. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Where else do you want to go? In Middle Earth. Where do you want to go?
Okay, well, we got to talk about Númenor. Um,
Numenor. Mm-hmm.
so okay, let me just give a quick my understanding of what happened with Númenor, which is that they came back. I had forgotten this, but the queen, or I guess not queen, was blinded, I guess by the volcano.
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and now she's like gonna become queen, except weird guy with the weird hair is like, nah, I'd rather be the king. And the sister of Isildur and his dad, daughter of his dad, is like, oh man, you took my brother to war for no reason, and now he's dead. And also, there's a plot point that I don't remember from season one where I looked in your secret room and found your orb, and that's no good because we don't like elves. And I'm gonna share it with dude with the weird hair. And then they were like, they orchestrated a little coup plan, and then an eagle showed up, and I got very confused.
Yeah. Okay. So Numenor is an island of men. That's as well, but
Yes,
men is the line we use. That was given to them by El. Basically, was raised out from the water after defeating Morgoth. They were like, "You
that was the
deserve your
reward.
own. Yeah, it's your reward." And then eventually, these men were like, "We're so sick of you being like, you gave us this island. Like we fought in the war. We don't need you to keep being like, whatever." So they basically banished them. No elves are allowed. It's a big deal when Galadriel shows up with Halbrand in season one. They have not seen an elf there in a long time. This is basically just Numenor civil war, basically, that there's this conflict that's happening, that everything maybe is not so as it seems in this basically like land of abundance. This is like when they show up in Numenor for the first time. It's like, oh my god, everything is. Or they have been very successful. Very
It's the nicest
successful.
place. Nicest
It's the
place around.
best place. It's where you want to live. No elves allowed. I'm not saying that. Elves could be there if I was there, but it's nice. And they
We
say
know
no
what's in
elves
your
allowed.
heart, Grace. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. And basically now there's like strife over how they should continue to rule. And a big part of this is obviously that Miriel, who is the queen regent, does have this elf orb that gets brought out. It's like she would be willing to work with the elves. And this guy is named Pharazôn, who's like, nah. And there's some talk about like he actually maybe had a stronger claim to being named king anyway, should have been named king. And so, yeah, he's essentially trying to amass some power. And
And
she
then
mentioned,
typical on his deathbed king stuff gets
yes.
in the way.
Uh-huh. And then the basically the eagle is just that she is like, did she say she had a vision of an eagle, or her father had a vision of an eagle? And then he's like, well, that would be quite the omen. It'd be a very, like, it would say, like, yes, of course. Eagles are pretty, like, they're in the Hobbit. They're in, they're in Lord of the Rings. They're very like, they're in, yeah, it's a good sign to see. They're very helpful. And so then one shows up, and then Pharazôn uses it to be like, but I told you earlier it would be an omen, but like it actually be an omen for me, and it will be how I potentially will become king. So
So the eagle was
that's just what's
supposed to
happening.
be for her.
I don't know if the eagle is like supposed to be for any, but like I don't know
He
why
was
the
just
eagle.
being an eagle.
I
Because
guess
those are
so.
the
I
same
guess
eagles that like saved the world in Lord of the Rings. right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're pretty
Yeah.
chill.
Yeah. They save yeah, they save Frodo and Sam.
They don't
Yeah.
seem like they'd be team hair guy.
Um I don't know. We'll have to
He
see.
didn't
We'll
seem that
have to
happy about it. They were like, "Oh yeah, it's all good. It's the look at the eagle is happy about him," and the eagle is like, "Wah!" I
see. Yeah, he's like gone. You're like, I don't think that seems I
was
don't
like,
think
"The
he's
eagle's
like,
about to eat him," but then he
yeah,
just flew
but it
away.
didn't. He flew away. I think that that's all. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. This feels like all. It just feels like, yeah, we could put an eagle here. Lord of the Rings. Put an eagle, giant eagle here.
I will
Uh,
say this too.
mhm.
It really did feel like, are we just doing greatest hits here in the
Oh,
first 3 episodes? Because we're getting spiders, we're
we got
getting
spiders.
trolls, we're getting
Yeah.
eagles. I'm pretty sure we were getting tree people.
Uh, a hundred. I think for sure we got. I think
That's
we're
what
for
it
sure
sounded
getting
like.
ants. I think we're for sure getting ants. Yeah.
And it's
Uh huh.
like, are there no creatures that weren't in Lord of the Rings that we could talk about? Like,
No,
what's going on?
this is engagement bait. Like this is exactly what the show is. Of like, remember the stuff
The
from Lord of the
spiders
Rings?
in particular, I was like, really? We're going back to the spiders again. Okay.
Maybe they just I don't know. They got the CGI. They were like they already have the CGI files for the spiders and the trolls, giant eagles, ents. Ents are great. I love ents. So I'm
I mean, they're cool.
mm-hmm. It's Isildur, right? Who runs into is that right? Or is it the yeah. Isildur.
I think
Isildur and Theo kind of
Theo,
look
is it
alike. I
Theo?
guess gonna yeah, gotta
He
say
got
kind
picked
of
up
look
by a
alike.
tree, it felt
It
like.
is Theo. Yeah, it is Theo. Yeah. He runs away and gets picked up by a tree. Anyway, Farazan is just he staged a little bit of a coup here, but people seem to be on board, and it's bad that she had elf stuff hidden in her bedroom. So yeah, that's Numenor. Numenor is kind of
It's not a very interesting plot line for me.
the weakest, but literally the guy like I watched season 1 and Farazan is like the image art for episode 3. I was like, what's that? Who's that guy again? Who's
Well, it's
that?
just kind of like I feel like from the second we were introduced to them and we saw Hair Guy, and it was made pretty clear that he wanted to do a coup. I've just been waiting for the coup. At least now it's finally happened, and we can
It
move
has
on
happened.
and do more interesting things, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I think that was part of my issue with it. But we'll see where things go from here. Maybe more interesting.
The other, I mean, the Numenorian tangential stuff is obviously Isildur getting. So there's a city that I'm going to try and pull up as we're talking. This is the city where they go to.
Yes.
Um, uh, and then there's this. Is it named Edith? I'm
He,
gonna. It's
yeah,
not
he
Edith.
runs into a lady that stabs him in the thigh.
It's her name is Estrid. That's her name.
Estrid.
Yeah, and they're going to Peligrir, which is a Numenorian. It's like a city that was founded by Numenorians. So
That's
that's where
why there
they're.
was an aqueduct.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
And oh yeah, that's why because Theo's like, oh, we'll go get your horse back. That's why he gets picked up by a
Yes.
tree.
I
Um,
liked I liked Isildur's plot. I thought this was fun. We were introduced to a cool new character. I thought she was fun. He falls for an obvious trap and then gets saved by Elf Guy. And he was just like, "Oh, I was just on my way back to do my funeral. Ran into you guys." And I thought that was kind of a cool way to reintroduce him into the story. Then it was kind of weird that Bronwyn was dead, but we move on.
yeah, Rondir.
Um,
When I saw someone like people getting like chucked by arrows, I was like, oh, who is this? Who's it gonna be?
Legolas.
And I was like, oh, you're right, Rondir.
No, just the Legolas character in this story. Right, right, right.
It's like, all right, Rondir. He has not been in any of the episodes so far, and he's back. Yeah, Theo with I mean, Arondir and Ents is kind of maybe that's fun. Isildur and the Estrid stuff here. What do you? So my only thing is, I do feel like the show does like to do some of the same things. So Estrid, do you think she covers up her Adar brand? She has the
Yeah.
brand on her neck. Do you think this is like she's actually evil, or is she not evil? But this will be a thing where like, or they will eventually figure out that she covered up her Adar brand. Like, what's Estrid's deal basically? What do you think?
Well,
Because I don't
first
know.
of all, if you're trying to if you've got, like, human servants, kinda weird to give them a brand that gives them away, especially if they're gonna go on spy missions, but also just if they're trying to trick people into saving them when their wagon broke down. I don't know why that you needed that personally. But second, and please don't tell me, but like the second we were introduced to her, I was like, that's probably his wife or something. Um,
Uh,
and I don't think she's actually evil.
yeah, I don't think this is like Halbrand version two, not that she's, I think, some big named character, but I just don't think it's like, she's actually evil and trying to trick him. I mean, the difference is that, like, I guess we would know that she's evil. I don't, I think it's like she escaped and she's just trying to like cover up the brand. The thing I'll say about the brand, just to like give Adar a bit of, what if it's like, you brand everyone they come in because you gotta know, and if they escape, you gotta find. But if they earn their trust to be such good baddies, that then you can let them go, and they just tell them to cover up their brand. That's how you do it, right?
Oh, I just don't like it's not like it's like, oh, look, I'm branded, I'm loyal. Like,
No,
it's
but
not
the
like
thing
they
is,
were actually loyal as branded people.
if they're never gonna be loyal, you have to brand them in case they run away, and you track them down and find them.
But you track that it's any human.
Well,
It's not like, "Oh,
why do we
let me
brand
check to see
cows?
if you have a brand. Oh, you've escaped. We're bringing you back." It's like, "No."
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. I don't know. I don't know if they do like,
You it's okay, it's all good. You don't have a brand. Feel free to go about your day.
well, the thing about branding, I think at like cows is that it's just to be like, if you lose a cow and then it's like, oh, that's our cow because it has our brand on it. That's the point. So I don't,
But it's
unless
only
there's other,
Adar.
there's other, no, all the evil leaders who are branding all of their people. How
Is
brand
he trying to
is
make
how
sure
brand.
Sauron doesn't have any branded humans?
It's true. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I don't think Estrid's evil. I think she will turn out to be good, but it'll be proved wrong. We like see her up to no good. But I think it'll
Mm.
just be a thing of like, can he trust her? Because he'll figure out that she covered up the marking.
I
Um,
really
yeah.
liked the scene with Isildur talking about his mother and
Hmm.
Theo overhearing, and obviously there's a lot of crossover emotion there. I thought that was really well done, and really helped me understand Isildur's character even more, and helped sort of like create more interest for me in Theo because emo kid being emo it gets kind of old real quick. And so getting to see him express some real emotion and maybe some hope that he's not just gonna be emo kid all the time was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping for a little bit more. I mean, you know who's going to straighten that boy out? It's the Ents. You know, teach him a lesson.
Hopefully.
Cheer him up.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, I feel like one of the last big things here is this other, we talked about the stranger, but we didn't really talk about Kieran Hines, who I said in the preview episode, I thought he would just fully be Saruman. Once again, they're like, we're not telling you who any of the wizards are. We're not going to tell you who they are. He definitely does. His beard looks a lot like the wizard, the Saruman, in the movies. But I thought this scene was pretty fun. I thought
He's
this
like
was
so mustache twirly evil. I remember Saruman in the movies being like, no, but I
so.
could be good.
Yeah, so this is kind of one of the things that probably I would most be like, okay, maybe it's not Saruman, because the whole thing is that Saruman, like, it's eventually revealed, like, actually I've been working with Sauron the whole time and I was evil, and like Gandalf, like, that's a surprise to Gandalf. So I don't know for sure. Yeah, there are other named wizards in
Also,
the
like, yeah,
appendices.
like,
So
but wasn't he corrupted by Sauron? Like, wasn't he like kind of good, but then corrupted by Sauron? And if Sauron's been
yes.
gone for like 1,000 years, why would he still be bad
Um,
if Sauron's not currently corrupting him?
Well, yeah, I mean, my interpretation is that he does not fully get corrupted until like like we have many years, like,
Right. So like, he
thousands
shouldn't
of
even be
years.
bad at all yet,
I
theoretically.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. The only thing is that I think you could make an argument for is like seeing. Oh, do you know what I loved with the stranger is the thing about the name? I love that as like a trans person. It's like you don't know your name. Like once you hear like your name is within you, nobody can give you your name. Once you hear your name, you know your name. Loved that. I again like it's like maybe cheesy writing stuff, but I really love
No, yeah,
that.
I like that.
Yeah, so good, so good. But like if you see like the journey that like the stranger is on, and if we presume he's going to become Gandalf, like he doesn't know who he is. So the idea that like this version, like if this is Saruman, it could be a version that because there's so much time, he like as he showed up is doing some of this like more nefarious stuff before he realized he shouldn't be doing that stuff, and then
That would be
he
funny if there's a
he
redemption arc for Saruman
for
in this show, only for him to
Saruman.
then get re-corrupted by Sauron later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in people's theories about who we think Kieran Hines is playing. There are two blue wizards that some people think that like the Stranger and Kieran Hines might just be these other two blue wizards who eventually just the reason they're the blues they go on to wear blue robes. That's why they're the blue wizards. They're just two other wizards who mostly stay in this area. They stay in like Rune basically throughout the duration of Lord of the Rings and don't get involved in everything else that's happening. Um, Everybody else we've seemingly, I think the three other big ones, Radagast, Gandalf, and Saruman, we've met. And so, I mean, in that sense, maybe it's likely that this Kieran Hines is a blue wizard or both of them are blue wizards. But I mean, it's got to be, he's got to be, but whatever.
Okay, one thing I'm confused about is
Uh,
who does maybe Saruman think that maybe Gandalf is? Because in my memory, at the end of season 1, they were like, "It's you, Sauron."
yeah.
Does he
Uh,
still think it's Sauron?
No, I don't think he thinks it's. But now, if he thinks that it's like an. So if he is locked in and knows that there's other basically these Astari who are the like one of these other wizards, one of these other that if he thinks
Mhm.
it's one of them, he might be trying to figure out. He might just be trying to figure out if it's somebody who's tapped
I
into some. Yeah, I don't think he thinks it's Sauron because I think they've like figured out it's not Sauron.
I just feel like I don't remember there being a scene where it was like, "Hey, bro, it turns out it's not Sauron." And he's like, "Oh, well, I still want to capture him," or whatever.
No, he doesn't.
I
No,
feel
he
like
doesn't.
it's weird for them to just let that linger unexplained.
Uh, yeah, I guess so. The magic to summon the person, the like, shaved headed people, I thought was really cool. The like blood
Oh, that was pretty cool.
sacrifice ritual to like summon them back. And he's like, I wasted my blood sacrifice to summon you. Should have
I
brought
mean,
someone
that'd
else
be pretty
instead.
helpful to the elves right now.
Would be, would
Fast
be
travel.
fast travel. Yeah. But the other thing I like about the Stranger, Poppy, and Nori stuff is it's fully just like so much of my memory of like watching Lord of the Rings is like that is walking around a lot. It's silly, but like I do, I do like it. I
I agree. I
thought it was
got a
good.
little pang of like nostalgia for the adventure, but it just feels so separated from the main plot still. And not even a way where it feels like I have just no idea where it's going. Like there's not even like in season 1 the mini plot was who is this stranger?
Yeah, yeah,
There's a whole society that's like they're going to be mad at her for doing this and who's going to be exiled and stuff like that. Right now, it feels like there's no mini plot here. It's literally just like they're just evading capture, and he's
they're
trying
looking
to
for
get back to
stars.
where he was before, where he can control his
Yeah,
powers a little bit more and figure out his dreams or whatever. And it's just very nebulous.
yeah, they're looking for stars. That's what they're just
They're
looking for
looking
the
for stars
stars.
and to try
Yeah,
not to get captured by masked people. It's like I need a direction.
towards the stars.
It was okay. What does that mean? What are they doing? Who are
He
they?
can
I don't
figure out his
know.
name. That's what we're trying to figure out today. We're all trying to figure this out together. Who am I? What's my name? Where am I from?
I
That's what
need
we're trying to
and
figure out.
it's fine to have that as a lingering mystery, but I need some steps along the way. Like give me
I
some tangible goals beyond just don't get captured.
I mean, I can't. I mean, I know that it's like absolutely just to be like, hey, it's Sam and Frodo, but like it's Nori and Poppy. I know but I was like, when Poppy, I was a little like, oh, it's like
Me too.
okay, all right, fine. Like I kind of wanted the like Nori, Stranger Adventure, but Poppy comes in, and the lore stuff here, I think, is like in terms of like these like nomadic hobbits. They have the directions from the song. It's some of the ways in which like reading Lord of the Rings, and people are gonna hate me for this take. I hated so much how much every time it'd be like dramatic scene between Aragorn and Frodo, and then Aragorn sings. Like, okay, and it's like 2 pages of a song. I do think the
There's so
music
much
in the show
singing.
so far, in the way it's like So when Disa is like singing and she like, I think it's working for me, but because it's funny because I hated it from the book. Because I'd be like,
No, yeah.
yes, in this dramatic moment, of course, what we will all do is sing an old folk song.
No,
But
in the
yeah,
show,
oh well.
I think the songs are great. But yes, you are reminding me
Okay, great.
of reading the books, and there constantly being songs that I'm not gonna lie, I entirely just skip. In the same way that I skip over like the feasting
Oh, thank
scenes
God, I skipped them
in
too.
Wheel of Time and Song of Ice and Fire. Like I feel like there was a time when like that. I mean, that was the template. There'd just always be lots of songs in fantasy books.
I mean, it's because he invented the trope. He invented the genre, like Tolkien, like
Yeah.
raised it to be what it was, and so then people were like, "You got to put everyone's got to sing their folk songs."
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Grace, about these first 3 episodes that we should talk about?
No, I mean I feel like we mostly hit every like major story that's happening, and we can get to every detail. So I've enjoyed it so far. I thought it was a very fun, like, yeah, 3+ hours of television to like sit and dive back into this world. I was very excited. I liked it a lot.
I'm I'm just vibing. It's just so pretty. I'm just enjoying the atmosphere. If anything, like the part of the reason why I think Numenor was boring for me was because there were too many people in rooms. I just want to see people outside where it's pretty. I will also say this. I don't know if this was the same for you. Maybe it's my TV. Lots of really dark scenes when I can't tell what's happening.
I can I there's yeah, it's tough. In episode
That
3 specifically, that the
The
scenes were
whole
very dark.
spiders in the cave thing, I barely saw a thing.
The opening sequence and then the sequence where they go and like try to get the horse back, like yeah, is mostly like going off subtitles.
All right. Well, that's what we have then. This was a little all over the place because there were 3 episodes to talk about, but rest assured, we will be a little more focused when we talk next week about episode 4 of Rings of Powers. Stay tuned for that. We'll have some fun with it. Hopefully, you enjoyed this format. I've been really enjoying the show. I think so far I'm probably more bought in immediately than I was in season 1, where it took me a little bit of time to, like, get invested. Definitely more invested right away, and so, I'm having fun with it, and, I'm excited to talk next week.
Me too.
All right. Well, stay tuned then. In the meantime, you can, of course, find Grace and I on The Tastemakers, where we will be talking about TV as a whole, in general. What shows are on? What shows should you be checking out? There's some shows for us to have checked out by the Tastemaker time we talk about this week, like Chaos. So we'll have
Mhm.
some fun talking about what new shows maybe that are very good that you should check out. So tune into the Tastemakers. Of course, check out all of the other coverage we've got going on. You can always find me over on Twitch if you want to chat with me. Grace, anything else?
Just covering industry with Josh and Emily. Just joined us last week, but Josh and Emily will be back, and yeah, that's all I got. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here for The Rings of Power, episodes 1 through 3. And we will see all of you next time.